Okay, so I have 2 questions. Just a time check, we've got 10 minutes left in this, and, I feel like we might need to schedule a part 2 if you guys would be willing to do it, because like, there's a lot more to go.
I could
But I
talk
wanna
all
hit
the
you.
yeah.
Yeah, this it's like, to me, this is so interesting, and I have 2 questions to ask, and one of them is, I love the lazy boy story, um, because I think it is like, there's a someone, and the word insights is kinda passé at this point, but, like, there's somebody at Call McVoy who is really, like, got a sharp eye for the nuance of things and what's gonna motivate people, because in your decliner idea, and in your don't recline your seat on the plane idea, the thing that I like, both of those ideas, as soon as I hear them, I'm like, Reddit. That's on Reddit. Like, these are so memey, and so whoever is out there culturally, like, tuning up these ideas, kudos to them. Then made a point earlier that was something about the fact that we have a lot of data, we have a lot of data to process, but what we don't have is time, because people want to make decisions that are going to be like, what are we going to do for next month, or what are we going to do for the quarter? And it strikes me that probably, correct me if I'm wrong, most of the clients that you work with, Donovan, and I know for a fact Lazy Boy, are publicly traded companies. Now, there does seem to be a bit of a macroeconomic shift, I don't know, going on, where fewer and fewer companies are choosing to go public, um, for lots of reasons. But one, like, the private equity playbook is pretty bulletproof. And two, when you go public, you've got a bunch of people in your business. Have you guys any experience, and is there a difference between clients who are publicly traded and those who aren't, in their ability to play like a different time game?
I mean, 1,000%, right? Like, I mean, publicly traded companies inherently have the challenge of the street, right? Like, you have to like report earnings to them. You have to forecast an earnings like growth to make to continue to basically say to consume like to investors to say, hey, this company still will be valuable in 12 weeks. So you should continue to invest in it so that this company can continue to do the things that it's trying to do to grow.
Yep.
Right. Like there's a the idea is, in theory it's intended to be it's supposed to be well intentioned, right?
Yep.
But you're trying to point people to things that we know that they're going to continue to produce a thing, a product, a good or service, and continuously in a way that's adding to society or whatever, right? Like that's the noble kind of view of it, right? But
Very.
I mean, if I'm going to get super
Mhm.
cynical, which is why I'm Donovan,
That
is like this is all like that's a big ruse, right? The people that it benefits is such a small percentage
Mhm.
of the people who like could benefit from the things that would make a brand like more effective as like in its growth trajectory.
Yep.
And so, when I think about, you know, publicly traded companies, you know, and you see like the people putting their necks out, like CMOs and the CFOs will never put their necks out because they know they see the numbers. They're like, "Are you stupid? Like the numbers say X, Y, and Z. I'm never gonna say anything other than counter to that because my head will be on the chopping block the next day."
Right.
But CMOs and I'd say CEOs to some extent are the ones that have to be courageous and have a plan that people can rally behind. Because if it works, it's a win, right? Like, like I mean, Steve Jobs, Apple is a success story because he made some big decisions earlier on in I mean, there were some duds early on, like right, like the first generation of Apple, if you will, was not what it is today. But like in
Right.
today's world, I'm not ever sure we would ever get to the second generation of Apple because of how atrocious the first generation of Apple was. And so I
Right.
think because, we're so like we've been so conditioned societally to quickly grow companies I think it trivializes it. It minimizes the value of what growing a company actually looks like, right? And I
Yeah.
think that's and I think the other layer there, though, right, is that like there's so much information and things are so much more agile and more dynamic than they've ever been. So you're like, why can't you grow a company in 18 months? Like that seems like
Yes.
everyone should be able to grow a company in 18 months. Some companies grow in 18 months, some grow in 18 years. But that doesn't
Yep.
mean that those two companies are like comparably less important in the culture, right? In the zeitgeist, right?
Hmm.
Like those things still serve maybe two different kind of purposes and roles, but I think they both are needed. And I think that we've equivalized all companies in this way that like the street is the great like equalizer. Right? Like you can see like earnings, you can see stock price, you can see all these things kind of like side by side. But what it doesn't really tell you is like why is the company valued that way? Like why does the company
Hmm.
like why are those companies inherently different? And if you're like just looking at them on the surface, you're just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna buy stock A and not stock B, and that's like that's the investor view, right? But
Yep.
I think that's when you see certain private equity investors or you see companies that never go public and or family companies or whatever, like the thing that they're looking at is like, how do we continue to show up in a way that's authentic to who we are, that will allow us to like continue to be successful and grow and take care of the people that allow us to exist in the first place, right? And I think,
Hmm.
being able to do that, um, you know, is a luxury in today's world, quite frankly. It would be nice to see, more of that come to bear. But, I often do say that like private companies are more transparent and more collaborative in terms of thinking about some of those questions and some of those opportunities
Hmm.
because they can be, right? Like
Right.
they can take a risk and it not succeed, and they can try something else. Because no one
Exactly.
wants to continue to lose money forever. That you'll go
Right.
out of business. But like
Right.
sometimes you have to lose some money or make a decision that wasn't maybe the like out of the gate success to then
Yeah.
get to the thing that actually is truly a success, right? So
How long did it take for Amazon to become profitable? 15 years, maybe?
yeah,
I feel forever.
Well, that's what the isn't that the Bezos quote? The thing he invented was the amazing thing he invented was not Amazon, but an investor class that would wait decades versus quarters, like some
Totally.
quote like that, you know?
Yeah.
exactly.
But I think
And
the
that
change.
yeah.
Go ahead. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, kind of as Willie was talking, I was like, the idea a couple years ago of meme stocks was like a thing, like the GameStop thing. But I kind of feel
Yeah.
like to a degree, the whole stock market is like this meme economy where people buy narratives and invest in narratives and invest in speculation more than results. And
Well,
so brand is important,
The-
right?
I
that's
mean,
exactly what I was going to
the
say because
marketing
I
of
think
the.
that. No, I'm
No,
sorry,
sorry.
Donovan. Go ahead.
I was just saying the marketing of a stock is way more valuable than the stock itself, right? Like,
100%.
which is funny because now
Yeah.
we've come
Well,
all the way around, like the value of brand and the value
Well,
of.
I mean, I was just honestly, that's what I was just going to say. It's like, on earnings calls, it's not just how did you do, but where are you going?
Hmm.
And I think it's another role that brand is going to play in the story of the vision of change. And I think if we're all conscious of this intense change dynamic, I don't think any industry is guaranteed a future right now, with
Right.
what's going on.
Yeah.
And we're all feeling a heat and a disruptive force that I think is bigger than the original dot com. That everyone's talking about AI being a bubble and all. The difference between that and then dot com and now is
Mhm.
just how pervasive people are using AI. So like you might not have couping all of the investments that they're putting into data centers and the capex expenditure, and that might be what's creating that froth in the AI market.
Yeah.
But I mean, the statistics on Black Friday and how many consumers were using AI to help shop are it's
Yeah.
no question that this is different than the dot com, which the original dot com era, we were kind of in the aftermath of that, did feel a little phony baloney. We might
Hmm.
we might have been playing with the internet, but we weren't making major decisions with our life with it at that point, right? We weren't buying
Yeah.
things off of it in the droves we needed to. So I think brand again has a really critical role in sort of shaping the future vision of what kind of a company you can be because it gives you a lens by which you can make decisions that
Hmm.
actually accrue brand value or decay it. And so like that's another way brand is moving to the center of the enterprise. And I get really excited about those companies who see it in that way as a star that they're chasing, not just
Yeah.
something that's creating attention for the company that they are.
I love that. I would say on the bubble issue, I feel like there's a cultural acceptance that happened that like we culturally were not ready to do everything online, to shop on .coms, to buy our dog food on .coms, because we were still so close from like everything being face to face in person. And now I think it's just easier because we've kind of been culturally trained. Like you can have virtual money and you can have virtual experiences and blah blah blah. And yeah, a computer can pick your Christmas presents for you. So I think culturally we're more accepting. I do think AI is a bubble because I think it's overvalued, which isn't to say I think it's not valuable. I think it's overvalued,
Totally.
but I could also be wrong about that. Okay, I want to close this this installment of what I think is actually going to turn into a maybe multi-part conversation. But John, you once said to me, and I've always remembered this thing that you used to say. And this was probably going back to like, I don't know, 2010-ish. And you said, if you injected all the creative directors with truth serum, and you said, if you could go back to the 60s, would you do it when there were only like 3 networks and 5 magazines and 2 newspapers and a bunch of out-of-home boards? Would they do it? Like, absolutely they would. What and I also will open this up to Donovan and to Darla. If you had like what's the version of that now? What's if you gave marketers truth serum right now, what would they wish was different about marketing?
Mm. You know, I don't know I don't know if it's a singular thing, and like to and I hope that might be changing, Steve. Like I hope that's not as true anymore. Because like I think
Mhm.
we have a new wave of uh thinkers
Yeah,
coming in who are very, very ambidextrous in the way they think about what is the form of creativity. What is the
absolutely.
what form factor is that? You know, but going back to that advertising class I lectured at a couple of weeks ago or whatever, there was a really cool young man there who after class, after the lecture, what have you, came up to me and said, "Hey, listen, man, I'm trying I'm trying to figure out what track to get into because a lot of people are saying I should be a strategist, but I also like to be a creative and I like to, I do these things on the side and all that." I'm like, man, here's the thing that's holding us all back is the narrow definitions of archetypes. Like, don't, you're, that said, you're probably going to need to pick a lane because that's how we know how to hire because we're
Mhm.
Mm,
looking for this kind of a person or this kind of person. But if you look at a creator today, like the average creator, and ask them, are you a strategist or a media person or a content editor or a meme psychologist or they're going to be like, uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh. So we
mm,
have like these new kinds of creatives who are going to win the future and they're more like the Donald Glover or the Pharrells, where it's like they're multi hyphenates, they can do it
Yep.
all. They think about concept before they think about execution, and they
Mhm.
understand how concept needs to appeal in culture. And that to me is, I think, the new era of creativity that's going to really, really win. And add on to it what we've been talking a lot about this whole conversation, which is enterprise value. They're going to
Yeah.
take creativity to this new sort of outcome where it's not just what kind of cool content can we create, what kind of aesthetic can we adopt, what kind of partnerships or collabs can we, what kind of influencers can we curate? It's like, what kind of company can we be that is
Right.
natively interesting in a culture that is as prismatic as we've been talking about, and is earnest to who we have been. I love Donovan's point about the sort of elasticity of the Ralph Lauren brand in sort of the cyclical nature of fashion, but its core has been really, really consistent. And I think that's the new business strategy. How do you have something really, really, really long lasting and stable at the core that can move through time and bring you to new futures, but then
Mm.
have all of these really interesting and fluid yet rule-based dynamic expressions so that it doesn't have so that you're not trying on new stuff like stride gum and killing your core idea, but it can be dynamic enough that it plays by a certain set plays and taps into culture and creates some fluidity as that core idea continues to move forward. That's the new form of creativity. So I think to answer your question a long way around the barn is like, what kind of truth serum? I think people are afraid of technology. I think people are afraid of disruption. So I think it's really kind of a pretty clean break. Are you excited about where things are going, or are you nervous about them? And
Yep.
if you're excited about them, the game is on. And if you're nervous about them, it's a really daunting time for almost
Mhm.
anybody. And I'm excited and I'm daunted. And so it's like
Totally.
it feels like a real, you have to live in both of those worlds. Like, man, this is a really weird time. And also, I don't even think we've begun to think about what creativity will look like on the as we move into the next 2 to 3 years, to say nothing of the next decade.
I love that you took a very cynical question and flipped it and made it a very positive response out of it. And inspired by that, I want to ask Donovan a slightly different question. If you, because you are, I always think of you as sort of the like a source of truth for me, because you, as I said at the beginning, you do sit at the intersection of creativity and data and technology and all of this stuff. If you could tell marketers one thing that you think that they should do differently or that they should know that they probably don't, what would it be?
Not to like fully like tap into John's answer, but I think that like collaboration is like the future. And I think collaboration is such a much more broader term than it's ever been, right? I think collaborators think like, oh, I get a brand or I'm a brand, I'm gonna get like an influencer or whatever. Like, let's figure out something, and that's the collaboration, right? The collaboration is like it shows up in so many ways. I think that like technical people can be super creative if you give them the latitude to be. And I think that sometimes that doesn't always seem like the case, but like they see the world in a way that, someone that may be more of a creative mind, like in more of like an artistic creative mind, like doesn't. And when you put those two creative minds together, like a technically creative person and like an artistically creative person, you can do some pretty magical things. Right. And so when I think about, marketers is like, think about your creative swim lane is way broader than you think it is. Right.
Mhm.
Because I think again, like we've talked about this in pockets over the course of this conversation today, but like, to create an elastic brand has, there are guidelines and parameters and, you know, different things you have to kind of creatively define through like the art of it all. But technically there's super interesting things that come kind of on the back of that or can precede that can get you there faster or get you there in a way that may look different to the competition. And that's super exciting. And I think that if creativity is seen as a much broader kind of like universe, like and you are creating kind of with all parties at the table, I think you unlock really magical ideas that become
Couldn't
pretty
agree more.
transformative when done well.
Yep. I love that. Thank you guys for collaborating with us on this episode. Darla, do you have any
I was saying,
questions
Darla,
for
did you
our
say?
guests?
I don't have any questions. I've had multiple thoughts as an observer. I don't agree with you on Ella McKay, Steve. I was told to like her, and you know what? I believe Jamie Lee Curtis, so I've been hanging on to that this whole time. Uh,
Who would have thought that
no,
that would have been the thing? So wait, did you see that movie?
no, I'm fully
Oh,
planning to though.
I'm I'm sure, and it's not Jamie Lee Curtis who says the thing that I said at the beginning.
No, but
It's
she's in it,
but
so if
yes,
she's in it,
and we love
it
Jamie Lee
must be
Curtis.
true.
Yes. Okay. Anything,
Um,
any perspective you would like to add?
a couple things. I think I'll start with the question you just posed about the truth serum, because I really
Yep.
agree with both what Donovan and John said. I think we've always been trying to switch gears into planning holistically, branding holistically, bringing teams together, connecting the dots, all of this collaboration, right? But to John's point, we're set up where it's like, you're a strategist, you're the creative, you're the PM, when at the end of the day, we're all just people, and people are capable of a bunch of things. Or if they're not already strong in those things, learning about these things by immersing themselves with people who are strong. And so if we feed off of each other, we have to change in the way we set ourselves up. If we want the outcome to be holistic, we have to work holistically.
Absolutely.
Totally
I love
agree.
that.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Way to
So
land that
it'll-
plane.
yeah, it won't. I mean, I feel like I'm sort of living it right now, and a lot of times, like when I'm brought on to a team, like I don't think people know how to articulate it, and I think that this is like a very ingrained advertising cultural thing. To your point about like
100%.
the Mad Men era, and like even how we talk to each other, and deadlines, and caveats,
Targets,
and circle back, and
campaigns.
double click on whatever, all the lingo. It's so like tried and true. Like, if we keep doing what's tried and true when everything around you is changing, it's not true anymore. You have to create what is true. And the reality is, it won't change if you're not changing also. And so the model needs to be zoomed out and collaborative, in that we give people space and room to move out of their lane if they want to. Not only that, like that should almost be the expectation when you're hiring.
100%.
Like, oh, okay, you're really good at project management, but like I see that you're a fan of music and film. Like, I'm sure you have ideas about that. I'm sure you have thoughts. I'm sure you have input, and like create environments where that is encouraged in a real way, not just lip service.
Man, I couldn't
Thank
agree
you
more
for
with
that.
that,
Yeah.
Darla. Yeah, I like just to add one more thought there. I don't even know if this is for the podcast, but just as people, like I think we inherit. It's. You've ever heard the old kind of story of the five monkeys in a cage with a a ladder and a banana? And one by one they get hosed every time they go up to go get the banana. But then over time they replace all of the monkeys, so no one in there has ever been hosed. But they never go up the ladder because that's just nobody goes up the ladder. You just never do
Right.
it. So to your point, we've
Mm.
all inherited these terms, these archetypes, and that you're a creative. The creatives will take care of that. I was like, fuck all that noise. Like
Mhm.
Donovan was saying, like put somebody who's kind of a technician with the creative. I think technicians are creative. Change the term. Like change
Yeah.
what is the
Absolutely.
definition of that, right? Like it's a different form of creativity. And to what Darla was talking about, it's like, how do we get different and more forms of creativity in the room with the right circumstances for success? That's when stuff gets really uncorked. And I think that, and then you also come away better for the attempt, right? You pick up a few people's techniques, and I think what AI is doing is allowing us to tap into expertise of anybody all the time. So, like, I joke that if we got locked in a Antarctica and I had to take out someone's appendix, I probably could do it. I might save your life. It might be hairy, but it's a different era because we can have access to expertise. So like the idea of just absorbing expertise is available to us now through
Mhm.
human collaboration, but also through these tools. So I like the idea of just single archetype talent is cooked. We got to get rid of that and just really start thinking in terms of what I call square shape. People are really good at a lot of things, and their squares can get as big as they need them to be.
Right. And we're like boxing them in right now. We're
100%.
literally like proposing that people stay in their box.
So we need
Totally.
what we need is permeable boxes, square-shaped
Yeah.
people who let other people in and can express to
Totally.
other people. This has been amazing. I am going to use every bit of charm I have available to me to convince Donovan and John to come back and do a part 2 of this conversation, in which we'll talk about things like novelty, consistency, and fraud. Those are
Okay.
some other items on the agenda for modern marketing. But I want to thank Donovan and I want to thank John sincerely from the bottom of my heart for joining us for this conversation. Thank you, as always, Darla, for being part of this.
Mhm.
And we'll look for you next time on the Creative Bias Podcast.